All right. I'll ask Tracy the next question.
Sure.
This is about your long cycle practice. Now, if you were to help me with my long cycle practice, and seriously, I do need a lot of help with that,
Right.
what would you say that, say, 3 things I would need to do to get better at the long cycle? Clean and jerk?
Well, a long cycle technically is the jerk, where you re-clean the bell in between each jerk. So that's technically what they call long cycle.
Yes.
When you clean the bell and then you just jerk consecutively, that's not called short cycle. That's just called the jerk, single bell jerk. So I guess if you have.
You don't compete.
I don't compete in
long cycle. Only the jerk.
Okay.
Right. So.
right. Okay.
So if somebody were to approach me and say, I'm interested in improving my long cycle, I would ask them, what do you think long cycle is, first of all? So are you just interested in training either the jerk or the snatch without switching hands? Is that what your conception of long cycle is, training that strength? So like anything else that you would want to do, if you wanted to lift a large amount of weight, you would have to find out where your starting point is, right? So can you not switch hands, whether it's a snatch or a jerk, for 30 seconds on each side, a minute on each side, a minute and a half on each side, and then a particular pace within that time? So it's all about training progressions. I mean, it's kind of funny to me because, I don't have an athletic background. So this idea of I see everything mathematically in progressions, which is why I've been so successful at training the swing and getting into other areas of training, right? So I just think in those terms. It just comes naturally to me because I lived with this guy for, the last 27 years. And I think that most people go into the gym, they're in a hurry to get to the end point. And they don't understand that, that they have to work their way up. There's no hurry to get there necessarily. So if somebody was interested in training that skill of not having to switch hands, and I think that's what you're talking about, then it just comes down to doing a little bit of homework, finding out where you are, finding out how to get to where you want to be, and progressively working your way by either increasing time, increasing reps. For instance, if you can snatch for 2 minutes on each side, how many reps were you able to get? It's going to slow down at some point, or maybe it won't. Maybe, or the next thought would be maybe to get 45 snatches, and without regard of time. Just take as much time as you need and see if you can do the reps. So there's some training for time, there's some training for reps, and lots of stuff in between all of that.
And technique, and where are you weak? Any training question that doesn't answer the question, where's your weak point, is flawed to me. If whatever the goal is, if you can't, it's like Tracy's was talking about, like, what's making you fat. If you can't answer that, that's a starting point. If someone asks me a technique question or a skill question, it's like, okay, where are you weak? And you don't know it, well, that's where you start. It's like, well, my back squat's problematic. Well, is it your thighs? Is it your glutes? Is it your lower back? Is it your abs? Where are you weak? Because that has to be the thing that has to be focused on. Because you don't bring up your weak points, the skill itself rarely gets better.
Which brings me to the question is, why do you want to train that skill? Do you have some thoughts of maybe stepping on a platform at some point?
What's a level 2 skill?
What is?
Jerks.
Yeah.
No, I mean long cycle.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So, what is, do you just want to add something into your training? What is it that you see in that skill that you think is going to improve your training?
For the simple reason that it'll make me look like I can break through walls and probably make that real.
Exactly.
As Pavel says.
Exactly. It's got to have, the physique component is everything. I'm the same way,
Yeah.
That's good. That's the right answer to me.
I was just quoting Pavel.
I know.
That's
I was
what he
asked
said.
a question a couple of months ago on Facebook or something. That somebody was asking women in the strength community, why do you lift heavy? And I respect people that just like to lift things heavy. Personally, I want to look good. I'm sorry, that's just why I lift.
That's not the only reason you lift.
What's the other reason?
You like to have physical accomplishments. I mean, you're not going to.
I like the physical accomplishments of how
GS
I look. Okay,
no.
I mean, okay, GS
right.
is different. Okay, but I want to look good when I'm on the platform.
Right, but you're not doing GS because of what it's going to do for you.
No. But what training comes first?
Art style.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly, but I mean, it's not. Yeah.
When
I'm being a girl.
when both of you were talking about technique, specifically when I do the jerk, the double bell clean and jerk, during the lockout from the second dip, I find that my glutes are not engaged. And this is something which has been a kind of long-standing thing ever since I tried practicing the jerk. So I did get it. I felt it on my lower back, and I had to lay it off for a couple of months. I sprained my lumbar spine at one time trying to do heavy jerks, double bell jerks. So one thing I consistently notice is my glutes don't lock out at the top as well as they do with other moves. What do you think could be going wrong?
So you're now ask the question. You say your glutes are not getting activated at the
top,
at the second dip, or at the top?
At the top after I come up from the second dip.
For a strong first technique and for GS technique, the glutes aren't really involved at the top. The knees lock out, and the lumbar spine, there's a lordotic curve.
Okay.
The glutes, are going to tuck the pelvis under. So what they do is they hit it, they lean into it, and the lumbar curve goes into an arch. The quads are holding it up, and the back is, the bells are over the midline, but the hips are actually behind them. It's more akin to, the beginning of an arch back good morning or something like that than it is. You should not be squeezed. If you squeeze your glutes at the top, you're going to tuck your pelvis, and you're going to take the curve out of your spine. So from what I've seen in GS, they don't do that at all. And the strong first technique, is straight up with the hips. It's more like an Olympic jerk. It's like, think of it of a barbell jerk. Okay. There's no glute contraction at the top. So that's probably why you can't do it.
Exactly.
Because it's not supposed to be there.
I was going to say, don't do it.
Trying to do it may be what hurts your spine.
And because you don't do it, that weight's got to be centered over. It's got to be in the right position overhead.
Okay. All right. So I've never been coached in the long cycle, except I just got to show a couple of moves to Dave Whitley and Jeff Newport, and they said, "Yeah, that's okay." But
I know you, Ram. So the thing you've got, I know you go too heavy too fast.
Yes.
So that's a big problem, because one of the things that I really admire about the GS world is they make you go very light until your technique is perfect. Right. You don't get to use the heavier weights. I mean, trying to learn technique with heavy weights is silly. It's just silly. It doesn't work across any board. Okay, Ron, we're going to teach you how to barbell squat. Here's 300 pounds on the bar. Let's see what you can do. That's not going to work. Right, you have to start with body weight and maybe an empty bar, maybe a stick. Yeah. So, and then once the technique has to come first, and then the loading. That's across the board, the way it should be for everything. If trying to increase your strength and technique, and learn the technique at the same time, it's just silly.
Right. Okay. Riff, in terms of the Strong First curriculum, if you had to change one thing about it, what would you change? I
would make it a single bell course again.
Oh, really? Why would you do that?
Why?
Yeah.
Because that's the entry point into kettlebells. No one teaches, I teach kettlebells 35 hours a week and have for 13 years. Okay? No one starts people with double bells. It's the single bell. And I talked Pavel into this for a while, then he changed his mind and went back. We had it a single bell course for quite a while. Single bells are harder in a stability and coordination sense. So when you have to do all these movements, one arm swing, okay, how many people, I see videos all the time of females and guys, everybody swings the beast two-hand. I don't see a lot of one-arm beast swings, okay, because it's harder. One-arm swings are harder from a stabilization. So when people are just beginning kettlebell training, the stability and the anti-rotational strength is built into the equation with one-arm bells work. I think that is, to me, that's what level 1 should be, single bells. Okay. Level 2 should be about double bells and complexes and, heavier bells, more weight, more volume should be what level 2 is about. That's advanced kettlebell training. That's when you're getting into the heavy, do some, double 32 swings and double 32 cleans and jerks and presses. That's what, and I'm trying to get it changed because I think for a lot of people it's very intimidating trying to come into a level 1 course where you've got to use double 24s or double 16s for females when they really haven't been taught. So that's the main thing I would change. I would turn it back to a single bell course. Remember this, the original RKC, the Russian Challenge book, Russian Kettlebell Challenge book, Pavel talked, there's only 3 bells. There's a 16, a 24, and a 32, right? Yeah. And the single bell was good enough for the Russian army, 124. That's good enough for most people. For the average person, for the average wannabe athlete, master the single 24 kilo bell, and then you need a double bell. But until you've mastered that, I don't see the point. And this is, Toomey and Pavel know my thoughts on this, so I'm not saying anything, but that's what I think it should be. Level 1 should be a single bell, and that's the change that I would make. And I'd get rid of the snatch test, personally. That's the
All right.